Hello, welcome to this week's Friday Live. I'm Annie Shuttleworth.
Yes, and I'm Alex Burkill. Annie, this is the first time that I've done a live with you since you've come back from maternity leave. I know I think this is your fourth live in a row. So you've been...
Am I setting a new record?
You're close. I know Honor did a lot in a row. So but it's nice that you've been, hitting the ground running and just doing live after live after live. Why not? But it's nice to be joining you this time. It's been a little while since I've been on one of these. But thank you for joining us at home. If you're watching this, if you're a regular viewer, welcome back. We'll be having all the fun that we normally have, pardon me. And if you are watching this for the first time, well, a few things. Well, what do we do in these Weather Studio Lives? We talk about the weather, unsurprisingly. A look back, a look forward, answer any questions, and we also have a quiz, which is a bit different.
Yeah, there's been a few changes around the studio. You can see behind me we have a Christmas tree now, a few Christmas decorations, and a leaderboard. Now, if you joined our quiz last week, we changed things up a little bit. We had an external quiz writer, George, and George has had another go this week as well. So for the time being, we'll be playing against each other head to head live for all of you, and we want you to play along as well. So currently on the leaderboard we've got how many times we've played and how many points we've got. So you get 3 points for winning the quiz and 1 point for a draw. Is that right?
Yeah, that'll be right. We'll keep it with football scoring. So yes, you're top of the table currently. Neither me nor the other Alex have had a chance to get on the score sheets yet, so we'll see how things go after today. But yes, we listened to your feedback. I think one of the people in the comments suggested we have a sort of scorecard going for how things go, and we'll see how long we cope with George's questions.
Yes. They were hard last week.
They were tough.
I believe they've become a little easier, but I didn't struggle too much. I think I won with 3 out of 5 or something. So anyway, questions are next to me in an envelope, so we'll be keeping them safe until the second half of this show. But for now, let's chat about this week. It's been a busy week, hasn't it? We had a really wet start to the week. Amber warning for South Wales, yellow warnings elsewhere for rain, and we are expecting more rain to come. The ground is really saturated, isn't it? But we have had some nice weather this week, actually. On Wednesday and Thursday we had some sunshine, and we also this week launched our Instagram broadcast channel. So if you follow us on Instagram, we've created our broadcast channel. It's a community which we'd love you to join, and we are starting from today going to be asking for you to send in your photos, and during these Weather Studio Lives we will share some of our favourites in the coming weeks. So this week, when we did have some very nice weather, we had some great photos taken by our own team, by Rich, which hopefully you're going to see in the next few minutes. Here we go. Some beautiful scenes. Rich lives in East Devon, and I believe this is somewhere nearby. You can see the mist in the valleys there, the cumulus clouds over the sea. It's gorgeous, isn't it? Some early sunshine with the sun rising later and setting earlier. You get some really nice scenes, I think, when you're sort of travelling to work at this time of year. Some beautiful skies. So
the sunrise this morning was particularly red, and with Rich's shots, I think he used his drone to go up above, which is why they're from so high up, and they're able to look down on the fog and the mist, which is pretty dramatic looking. And like you say, at this time of year, the sun's so low down, it adds to that atmospheric feel to things. When it comes to sending us your photos on our broadcast channel on Instagram, particularly send them if you have any questions maybe about the weather that you're seeing, that you've witnessed, that you've been able to capture. Send them our way, and then maybe we can answer any facts or queries you may have about what you saw when it comes to these Weather Studio Live. So any stunning photos or any photos that you have any questions about, do send them our way.
Yeah, can't wait to see them. But for this weekend, it's going to be a little bit I mean, limited options on beautiful mornings and evenings, I'd say.
Yeah, there's no such thing as bad weather, but yeah, limited options, I think is one way to put it. Yes, Saturday probably holding the better hopes, but even on Saturday it's going to be quite unsettled at times. I'll come on to that in a second when I head over to the board. Yeah, Sunday, some persistent rain pushing through, and really there's even more unsettled weather coming as we go through next week. More information about that, watching out for Tuesday, which could be particularly wet and windy. So that's something we've already turned our attention to.
Yeah, and just linking back to our the wet weather we had on Monday, when we had that amber warning in Wales. We did see some serious impacts from that, and following the deep dive from this week, we always look through the comments on those, and we've had a few questions from the deep dive, so we'll chat about them now. So we had a question from a weather follower, a somewhat serious but interesting question. Why wasn't the system that brought an amber rain warning to Wales on Monday considered a named storm? And talking about the criteria for storm system, for storm naming, and what prompts that.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one, because originally when we started naming storms just over 10 years ago, it had to be wind-based, and so the warning, the amber warning or the medium level impacts, they had to be a wind thing. Whereas now we've changed things ever so slightly in more recent years, and so there always has to be a wind element for it in order for us to warrant naming it. But it doesn't need to be the wind that needs to be bringing those medium level of impacts or greater. So in this instance, yes, there were strong winds, and I think did we have wind warnings? I can't
there were wind warnings.
There were wind warnings
in the north, yeah.
And then there were also these rain warnings, particularly the amber. So we could have named it if we deemed it appropriate. But in this instance, whilst there were those significant impacts from the heavy rain, it wasn't quite your typical stormy setup. And also, whilst we were warning of the potential for the impacts from the heavy rain and the potential for those high rainfall totals to build up a few days ahead, it wasn't until relatively near to the event that we had a greater idea of exactly where we were most likely to see those greatest impacts. And by that point, it would have almost been a bit late to start referring to it as a storm, when that wouldn't be telling the right story, really. So we can name a storm if it's the rain or snow that's causing the greatest impacts, as long as there is a strong wind element to it, as long as we do have wind warnings of sorts. We don't do it all that often, but it is something that we are able to do and happy to do, and it's not out of the question for next week.
Yep. That's fantastic. And yeah, we had loads of questions on our deep dive, which is my first deep dive back in a little while. But Giovanni Weiser asked if we interact or communicate or collaborate with other scientists such as astrophysicists. Is there any crossover? He also asked if we publish our own scientific papers or do our own research, which is, I've never really heard that question before.
It's a good one. So there are hundreds of meteorologists within the Met Office, and they all have different skill sets, and we have then hundreds of scientists around the office as well, who again have different skill sets and work on different things. And there is some links with astrophysicists and other bodies. It's not something that myself or the other presenters are that involved with at the moment, but there are lots of people working on different things, and we're always sharing knowledge as an organisation and sharing knowledge with other parties, other bodies as well. So it is something that we look into, particularly if there are specific developments that have happened that might influence one way or the other. When it comes to writing papers, it's not something I've done, but I know a lot of my colleagues, they often write papers and work on things. A lot of our chief meteorologists, who we often reference and who we always use for our core source of information before doing the deep dives. We invited them on. Brent was on Tuesday.
Indeed.
And we get a lot of our information when it comes to our 10-day trends, our Weather Studio Lives. They are often writing papers, scientific papers, writing in journals, along with other meteorologists within the organisation. So Annie, Alex, Aidan, Claire, myself, we're concentrating on the broadcast side of things. whereas there are lots of meteorologists who are able to focus on the writing journals, the writing scientific papers.
Yeah, and we just had another question in asking us more personally, when we're not presenting, are you doing meteorological operational stuff? What are we up to? Good question. We're busy, that's for sure. Yeah, so we work on longer term projects. We don't just do day-to-day presenting. Some of our learn about weather videos or that go on YouTube, we're writing scripts for that and helping build those videos. We're checking out the weather as well. We don't just get fed the information and put in front of the screen. We need to work out what's happening with the weather with the help of our experts here at the Met Office. So we're busy little beavers, aren't we?
We are. It's worth pointing out that we are all trained meteorologists and we all did our fair share of shift work, really. So
absolutely.
We all have years, decades between us of the meteorology, the operational side of things, working in our operations centre and forecasting for a variety of customers, from the military to the or to airports and supermarkets, roads.
Yeah.
So lots of places. We've done all of that, and then it's just now led us to this media side of things, or the broadcast side of things.
Yeah. Right, enough about us, a bit more about the weather now, I think. Loads of questions coming in about the winter. Are we going to see some snow? Or is it just going to be rain? Well, I think it's going to be rain, isn't it?
That's the theme, unfortunately. If you're hoping for the chance to go sledging or to build a snowman, it's not looking that promising anytime soon.
Yeah, and we've also had a question from Samuel Y3Y4Y. We often get questions because I find it difficult to read out your name, actually. What's causing this weather pattern to be wetter than average this autumn, even though the polar vortex has been weaker than average for the time period?
I'm going to go to the board for this bit, I think. So, because you looked back a fair bit at my microphone cable stuck under my stool, so I'm going to get that up right before I fall over. So you looked already at some of the stats from November, from autumn, in the deep dive, but I did want to capture back because you're right. There was a lot of wet weather around, particularly in certain parts of the country. Now, I think one thing to break it down as to why it felt exceptionally wet is because of how dry it had been through spring, through summer. Now here I have our rainfall accumulations through the year for the whole of the country, and it's through the year up to this point. And you've probably seen these charts before if you're a regular viewer, but they compare where we are to average and to the highest and the lowest in the records. And the brown shaded area shows just how below average the rainfall through this year has been. And this is a cumulative chart. And you can see, yes, started ever so slightly below, but then, yes, spring and summer, so dry compared to average, that we've got this massive brown shaded area. During October, however, whilst it was quite a bit wetter, there's a few things to break down. It wasn't that much wetter than average. Yes, we got closer to that average line, but not massively so. And it's also worth bearing in mind that the autumn months, they're some of our wettest. I mean, November's, the second wettest month on average in a year. December's technically the wettest, but there's not a huge amount in it. October, January, they're pretty close to November as well. So it's pretty normal for us to get significantly more rain at this time of year. I think we need to bear in mind that how dry it was during spring and summer makes the wetter weather that we've been having recently feel a bit more extreme than it otherwise would. However, some parts of the UK have had a markedly wetter than normal autumn in particular. Particularly Wales had its 10th wettest autumn on record, and you can see that if we again show the same chart but this time looking at Wales in particular, and you can see through autumn from September onwards, you can see massive jumps closer to that average line, and it's even more marked if we look at the same chart but this time for for Northern Ireland. And you can see whilst it was drier than average, quite markedly so through much of spring and summer, through the last few months it's got pretty close to the average. And if you think at the start of September it was below the 5th centile for driest on record, or for the driest or wettest even, but now it's pretty much around average for this stage in the year. So quite a marked change. And if we look at some other charts just to show a similar story, And this is looking through autumn. This is for the UK as a whole. And you can see generally it's just been that little bit wetter than average. But not, well, it's a fairly amount by the end of it. But it's been not as extreme as you may have felt because of that change between the drier spring and summer to what we now have. However, yes, in Wales, it's close to the 95th percentile by the end of the autumn, and also for Northern Ireland it's not that far away from the record. Like I say, it's the third wettest autumn on record for Northern Ireland. So why is this? Well, there are a few things, and it's a little bit tricky to pinpoint exactly because I've been looking into it. I've been talking to some of the chiefs, and we're not especially sure why we saw much wetter weather than average for some parts of the UK. But I think it's worth bearing in mind a few things. So the jet stream was a little bit south shifted, and as we often see when that happens, we get a series of low pressure systems coming through, and they bring wetter, windier weather. That's not unusual. It's autumn. You know, we get wetter weather at this time of year, but it has been quite a bit wetter. I think there are a few things. So the tropical cyclone activity in the Atlantic, that kind of got going a bit more during autumn, and so that led to these perhaps deeper areas of low pressure coming towards us, more unsettled weather, and so we saw that change. So we saw it really just invigorating kind of all at the same time. And then we've at times had higher pressure towards the east of the UK. Now I'll get the map of the UK just to, or map of the world just to try and illustrate this. But because we've had higher pressure at times over Europe, whilst we have had low pressure systems rattling their way through and pushing their way in, because they've been not making too much progress across because of the high pressure towards the east of us, that's led to those low pressure systems being a little bit slower moving perhaps, and also being in slightly different positions than we often see. Storm Claudia, for example, a big issue with Storm Claudia was the fact that we saw, because of the low pressure positioning around here, we saw that wetter weather coming in on easterly winds. As a result, we then, easterly winds like that, then as a result, some places the eastern facing upslopes were where we saw the higher rainfall totals, and so that's slightly different to normal. And I think that's a similar setup in terms of why Northern Ireland, for example, was so markedly wet compared to average, because the low pressure systems were in slightly different positions and sitting rather than moving through in those slightly different positions, which is why those areas saw higher than average rainfall. Whereas some parts of the country, northern parts of Scotland, the southeast of England, autumn was actually a little bit drier than average.
Yeah, it's a pattern that's not going to be shifting too much either, is it, over the next couple of weeks, the similar setup to what we've had for the past week or so at least. A few questions coming in. Thanks for all your questions. Keep them coming. We are reading them. Eddie Bowles wants to know how long this rain is going to last.
Well, that's a good question. Should we have a little look at the weekend forecast, because there is some pretty unsettled weather coming through. So worth bearing in mind that we do have warning out. There's some strong winds, heavy rain across parts of Northern Ireland at the moment. That's valid until 7 o'clock this evening. That's because currently there is a front making its way through, and that's bringing some persistent rain. If you've not already got the wet and windy weather, it's going to arrive by the end of today. That then pushes in as we go overnight and clears away towards the northeast. But behind it, yes, there's something a little bit drier, but it's definitely not totally dry. Heavy at times, outbreaks of showery rain, blustery winds for many of us. And so with that, whilst there will be some clear breaks away from those showery bursts of rain, with the blustery winds, a bit more cloud compared to last night, it's not going to be as chilly. I'm not really expecting any fog. There's a bit of fog around across parts of the southeast this morning. That's less likely. Can't rule out a touch of frost in the sheltered glens, maybe sheltered parts of eastern England, but on the whole it's going to be a milder night than we've seen through some recent nights. But with that, quite an unsettled weekend ahead. So as we go through Saturday, let's just zoom in a little bit more, and if we put cloud cover on as well, if it lets me. Oh, my graphics have gone ever so slow, so we may lose this in a second. But I can talk through it anyway. I don't need the graphics behind me. Here we go. There are going to be showery bursts of rain continuing as we go through Saturday. Some of them will be heavy. There could be some hail, could be some thunder, particularly towards western parts of the UK. Further east, a greater chance of seeing some dry weather, both down the eastern side of Scotland and England, also perhaps some parts of eastern Northern Ireland, avoiding the heaviest showers. But it's worth bearing in mind that, anywhere really could see some showery bursts of rain, and we do have those blustery winds. Then if we run through, and it's being very jerky, but after perhaps a slightly quieter spell as we go through overnight into Sunday, that quieter weather doesn't last because there's another system that comes through on Sunday, which for many is going to be an even wetter day. Persistent rain spreading its way northeastwards. It moves through relatively quickly, but it is going to be pretty soggy for a large chunk of the day for many places. And then there's something a bit more, unsettled to come as we go into next week, but I'll talk on that in just a second. Do we have any more questions about the weekend?
We haven't got any more questions about the weekend, but quite a few questions actually about Christmas and snow and what the forecast is for the Christmas period. Rumours of it turning colder from Christian Proto 6405, or is that more hype? What is the forecast for after this weekend?
Well, it's fair to say, I mean, Christmas is still awfully far away. Before we get on to the near forecast, let's just quickly look at the Christmas forecast then, because, we've got our snowometer, and what are the chances? What are we looking at when it comes to the chance of a white Christmas? Well, it's still almost 3 weeks away, so yes, still too early to say. You're right, there have been some reports or some rumours of it being colder as we go through December and towards the Christmas period. A lot of those are based on fairly older model output and older signs that suggested that we could see some colder weather in December. It's now looking less and less likely. It looks like kind of the weather that we have around at the moment really is set to continue. So I'm talking wet, blustery, and if anything milder than average, and as a result the chance of seeing anything wintry pretty slim. I mean, I know we have this technical definition of one snowflake needed to be recorded officially anywhere in the UK for it to be white Christmas, and with some higher ground over Scotland, modest high ground, it's not out of the question, but at the moment the signs aren't that promising if it's a wet and windy, if it's a white Christmas that you're hoping for. But after the unsettled weather this weekend, what happens next week? Because we're already turning our attention to a feature that's developing. If I just dart ahead, and as we go into, through Monday and into Tuesday, there's an area of low pressure. It's not yet developed, but there's an area of low pressure that's coming towards us, and it looks like it's going to track somewhere across the Republic of Ireland, then across Northern Ireland, and then towards Scotland as well. And if this comes off, it could be particularly deep, and it could bring some heavy rains, some strong winds. We're talking gales in exposed spots, but even some inland parts could see some very windy and perhaps damaging weather. Now, in order to try and illustrate this a little bit better, I do have a couple of scenario charts that we've shown you. So the most likely setup for next Tuesday, we're talking a deep area of low pressure taking a track similar to what I showed you, perhaps ever so slightly towards the northwest, so just fringing parts of Ireland and then coming towards the very northwest of Scotland. And if we see this, then this could bring, yes, very strong winds, particularly around western parts of the UK. And we could also get some very heavy rain. Wales, southwest England. So Wales obviously has seen a lot of wet weather recently, so saturated ground, and so that could cause some further issues. So this could cause some problems if this came off, and we're going with around a 60% chance of this happening. The next most likely scenario, about 20%, is the low comes a little bit further south and east a little bit further east compared to the most likely scenario. And so instead it tracks across, up through the Irish Sea and fringes closer to parts of southwest England and Wales, affects parts of northern England and southern Scotland, and then pushes through. Now, if this comes off, the impacts from both the wind and the rain could be a bit more widespread. So we still potential of gales, severe gales, even in inland areas, and some high rainfall totals building up in areas, not just those areas towards the west where we already have very saturated ground, but perhaps a bit more widespread and towards the east as well. Worth bearing in mind, there is a third scenario which keeps it again a little bit further east and also slightly less developed. So I'm standing in a bit of the way. So a little bit less of a deep low pressure, still relatively deep, and so we will see some wet and windy weather, still some gales in coastal spots, particularly some south coastal parts, and yes, there will be some heavy rain, but probably less likely to be as impactful as those first two scenarios. Now, but if we add up those percentage chances, we're going with around, say, about an 80% chance of some significant impacts with this feature as we go through, particularly Tuesday. It's arriving later Monday, but overnight Monday and into Tuesday. Remember, we've had Storm Claudia, but as that was actually named by the Spanish Met Service, that didn't come from our naming list. And so the next name, if we were to name a storm, or if Met Aaron or KNMI in the Netherlands, or Met Aaron in Ireland, if they were to name it, the next name on our storm list would be Storm Bram, because although we've had a B and a C already, technically on our list we've only got as far as A when we had Amy. Then one other thing that I wanted to show you when it comes to here we go. I wanted to just show you EC plots showing the position of the low pressure as we come through, because it agrees with what I was showing you in terms of the possible scenarios. I'm just going to dart through a little bit. I've gone too far. Here we go. If we scroll back a little bit and if we run through, so here's the low pressure that's likely to develop as we go through into Tuesday, and you can see the potential different tracks. So we have this yellow line, the deeper ones, remember the yellows highlighting lower pressure, deeper pressure than the blue. So the deeper, keeping it towards the northwest of the UK, but some model output taking it a little bit further south and east, more across the Republic of Ireland and across Scotland. But if it does so, it will be ever so slightly less intense, less deep. And then there are still some models which keep it a little bit further southeast even still, but the further south and east it is, the less likely it is to be quite intense. So yes, so still some question marks, still a lot of uncertainty as to exactly how wet and how windy it's going to be, where we see the greatest impacts, but it is definitely one to keep on top of, because there is the potential for some very wet and windy weather as we go through into next Tuesday.
So little change on the cards for the weather, really. More rain to come, which unfortunately does not give you any sign of things settling down. Starlight 84, who's planning on putting up some Christmas inflatables for the community. Well, whenever they can. So
I guess my advice would be, if you're, I don't know where they are, but particularly if they're towards the west or I mean, the further east they are, the less likely they are to be hugely impacted by those strong winds. But for the time being, it may be worth holding off until the middle of next week once we've seen that deep low push through, just in case it causes any significant issues. It's a pickle, isn't it? At this time of year, people want big decorations, Christmas decorations put up, but then we're also more likely to see the wet and windy weather. Yeah,
when we're thinking about impacts and warnings, actually genuinely Christmas decorations are something we think about when we're thinking about warnings at this time of year. Oliver Ewers has said, with the ground already around the southwest of England pretty saturated, do you think we could see some localised flooding? And high spring tides also being an issue. Yeah, we had full moon last night, the cold moon, high tides this weekend, which does, with the strong winds as well, coastal areas are likely to see some flooding, plus ground is already saturated, so that means that we could see impacts just where the ground is already saturated. Further flooding is definitely likely for particularly southwestern areas. South Wales is that real hot spot for where we've seen recent rain.
On that, it's worth just going back to what we discussed at the start. When it comes to storm naming, it's not just the winds that we take into account. The wet weather, the heavy rain, the saturated ground will also be considered as well. Particularly if scenario 1 or 2 come off, there will be strong winds in association with this feature. and with that the heavy rain, but it's potentially the rain that's going to cause more impacts for more people. So definitely something that we're watching out for. Speaking of wet and windy weather though, one thing that I did want to touch on, if my graphics let me, because they're being ever so slightly difficult today, there is a very deep area of low pressure out in the eastern Med. Now this has actually been called Storm Byron, and this is affecting, I mean, it feels like for weeks we've been talking about heavy rain coming through across parts of Greece, Turkey, Albania, nearby nations, and we're seeing that again at the moment. A few hundred millimetres of rain building up in some places. It's worth bearing in mind around this area, the average varies quite a lot in terms of how much they often see during a month in December, but nonetheless it is going to be highly impactful. Now there has been some talk as to whether or not this is something called a medicane. So that's a term, if you kind of group the Mediterranean and hurricane together, you get medicane. In this instance, probably not, because it doesn't really have that warm core which it needs in order for it to be classed as a medicane. And also, another thing that you need is this real spiral, the eye, if you will, which in this instance it doesn't have. You may say, but it clearly does. This is because this is a satellite imagery from Medicane back in 2018. So we're not seeing this kind of development at the moment. This was a Medicane, and you can really see that spiral. It's quite a dramatic satellite imagery. With what we have currently in the Mediterranean, it doesn't look quite like that. So I think in this instance it isn't one. That being said, it's still bringing some very unsettled weather to eastern parts of the Mediterranean.
Thanks, Alex. Lee Catesby was actually asking for a weather forecast for the eastern Mediterranean for Xmas week, which is a little bit far off.
That's a bit far away. Hopefully it will be more settled than it is currently, but that won't be particularly hard with the heavy rain, the frequent thunder, large hail. I mean, waterspouts, tornadoes, they're not out of the question at the moment in that neck of the woods. So hopefully a quieter Christmas period.
Yeah, we're having loads of questions in about the Christmas forecast, how long the rain is going to last, and this week we spoke to Brent Walker in the deep dive about the Christmas or the winter outlook, how things are looking, and it's going to be on average a pretty average winter. So we've got generally average conditions expected. So the prospect of snow is pretty slim at the moment for any widespread snow. And if you're looking for something to do this weekend, we released a video last weekend, or Alex Deacon did, about our winters changing, and we have a little snippet for you here now to check out.
Is snow becoming a thing of the past in the UK? And just how quickly are our winters warming? We know our climate is changing. We've felt winters getting milder and wetter, but does that mean winter wonderlands are less likely nowadays? Just what does climate change mean for our coldest season? As you'd expect, we measure our weather very closely. It's what the Met Office do. And we know exactly how our winters have changed over recent decades. Now, of course, a changing climate doesn't mean things alter on a steady path. We still get big variations year to year and season to season. Cold spells still happen, but the overall climate trajectory, so when you take the average weather over many, many years, it's pretty clear. It is getting wetter and it is getting warmer over the winter months.
Yeah, a really good video there that Alex presented along with a few other people. But yeah, looking at how the chances of the snow that we often dream about, especially at this time of year, just seems to be getting less and less.
Yeah, those damp, sort of quite cold, cloudy, murky winters becoming more and more frequent, which
I don't think Bing Crosby sung about those quite as much, did he?
No, but yeah, excellent video. Do check it out if you've got time. Right, now we have to move on to...
it's quiz time.
The quiz, yeah.
I'm super looking forward to this. What could go wrong with George's questions?
Yeah. So this week we have question sheets. Oh, I've not actually looked at these yet. See, we've got assigned questions sheets.
Oh,
They've
wow.
got our pictures on.
Wow, this
Fantastic.
is exciting. And do we have pens?
I hope there's a pen in here. Yeah, we've got pens. So the questions will be posted in the poll in the questions box. And there will be polls, so if you've not played along, play along with us. We'll be going through these questions one by one and answering, and then at the end, we're going to swap old classroom style and mark each other's. So, shall we begin? The first question is, what is the typical shape of large raindrops as they fall? Is it A, a perfect sphere, B, a teardrop, C, flattened spheres with a dimpled bottom, or D, a cube?
Okay, I'm pretty sure it's not a cube.
I don't think it's a perfect sphere.
No, teardrop's what you picture, isn't it?
As it falls, but
Flattened sphere with a dimple at the bottom.
because I imagine if you're thinking about it, maybe as it falls through the air, then you might get. I'm not really sure exactly how. Well, I mean, the classic image you see is a teardrop, isn't it?
Yeah, that is the classic image. But then the flattened sphere with a dimpled bottom is an awfully descriptive answer for it to be made up.
It is an awfully descriptive answer for it to be made up. Okay, well, answers in, I think. Okay. I'm not overthinking this. What do you think at home? Make sure you answer on the poll. Let us know what you're thinking. We might need your help, actually. It's not a good start for us.
Why would it be a flattened? I'm going to go teardrop as well, but yeah. Okay. Question 2. Which classic children's book features the line, "It rained and it rained and it rained"? Was it The Very Hungry Caterpillar, Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day, Paddington at Large and the Tale of Peter Rabbit? So I know 2 of them very well. I know The Very Hungry Caterpillar very well, and I don't remember it being in that one.
I don't think they really talk about the weather. It rained and it rained and it rained sounds like the sort of thing that Eeyore might say. He's always...
He's quite... but it was a blustery day. I don't remember if it was that rainy, but...
Paddington at Large, not sure what that one's about. Tale of Peter Rabbit. I don't think
remember
that's
it in
about...
that either.
No. I'm going to go with Winnie the Pooh, personally.
I don't want to copy your answers.
Well... If you know different, then please answer differently.
Is Paddington at Large a classic children's book?
Paddington at Large. What is he up to at large? I've not got into Paddington yet with my little one. So, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not The Very Hungry Caterpillar. We are at home. Do you want to check out the polls? But I've cast my vote, so I'm going to have a look at what's the.
Most people are going with Winnie the Pooh with 40%, and then 32% The Tale of Peter Rabbit. I Am Blob says they have all books on their shelf right now, so quick, go have a look and tell this one.
Chicken X6Q60 says Paddington, he has a raincoat and hat, so he is prepared for the rain, that's for sure. But did it rain and rain and rain? That's the question. We're going to need your answer now,
okay,
Alex.
Sorry, but I don't want to copy you, but I'll go with Paddington at Large. But I think it probably is Winnie the Pooh. But right.
Next question. Question number 3 is, what is the smallest typical raindrop size before it's classified as drizzle instead of rain? Well, drizzle falls out of stratus cloud, doesn't it? Low-level cloud.
Yeah.
That's what classifies it as drizzle, but I assume also it's because of the size of the droplets, because if they were that small and they fell from a higher up, they probably wouldn't make it to the ground because they'd evaporate before they arrived. So the options are A, 0.1 millimetres, B, 0.5, C, 1, or D, 2 millimetres.
Cool. I'm sure 0.1 is the description for drizzle. So it's either 0.1 and smaller, in which case the answer would be, I guess, 0.5, or it's smaller than 0.1. So I think it's I think it's A.
Well, 0.5 is bigger than 0.1.
Yeah. But so rain.
Oh, yes, of course. What's it for it to be classified as rain?
Instead of drizzle. So I think I'm trying to remember the exact definition of drizzle, but I think it's if the raindrops are smaller than 0.1
smaller than
millimetre.
0.1. Yeah, I agree with you, to be honest.
I'm sensing a slight difficulty. Maybe we shouldn't talk.
Well, I don't think that would be entertaining for everyone listening.
We should have two, or maybe we should look at the quiz before.
And have done our answers.
And done our answers before we start. And then we can talk about it. And then that might work better because then we're less swayed by each other.
Yeah. Unless we both have strong opinions, which neither of us do on these questions.
Maybe it
so
works
far.
better with you and Aidan because you were more strong-willed. Whereas we're like, what are you going to put? Anyway, right. So yeah,
Okay.
get your answers in. Have you put?
Yes,
put
I've
A
got
as well.
mine in. Right.
Which poetic term describes the soft, rhythmic sound of gentle rain? Is it susurration? No. Susurration, crescendo, cadenza, or resonance?
Soft, gentle rain. Could you just say the first one again?
No. Crescendo, that's a
Susurration.
music term, isn't it? Of
Yes,
things.
resonance. I mean, something resonates, but I don't think that would apply to rain. That would have to be a bit of a dual meaning. Cadenza. I'm going to go with susurration.
Oh, I'd already circled that.
Oh, had you?
I think
No, I'm doing it. I'm carrying on. I wasn't looking at what you were doing there.
okay.
What do you think at home? Let us know. I'm interested to see what you all think for the previous questions. So I'm looking forward to going to the answers.
So it was 50-50, well, a 45-45 split for the drizzle question between 0.1 and 0.5. For question 4, 45% have gone with answer A. So
on the rhythmic sound of gentle rain, Ruth O'Hare says it's got to be C unless A has two meanings. Well, what is the
real meaning?
What is the first meaning of susurration? A sounds relaxing when you say it out loud. It does indeed. Right, okay, well, we've both gone for A. I don't think we've differed, so...
I went with a different one for question 2, and I guess we'll go with a different one for question 5, because the question is, how many times does Gene Kelly sing the word do at the start of Singing in the Rain? Is it A, 18, B, 24, C, 35, or D, 42? I have no idea.
Haven't the foggiest.
I didn't even know he sings do. What? How does it start?
Singing in the rain.
Yeah, I know that bit.
I don't know how it starts. Oh, do. It's do. There is a lot of doing, but...
I can't picture. I can't.
Do. If he maybe does 2 a second, and it perhaps goes on.
I'm going with B
30 seconds.
because that divides by 4, and lots of things in music are in 4s, aren't they?
I'm going for D, 42.
D, 42.
Yeah.
Okay, great. We've done our answers. I'm not confident about joining you at the top of the leaderboard, so we'll go with that.
Well.
Oh, now should we look at the answers?
Yes. Would you like to reveal them?
Yes. Right. Oh, before we go on, so most people also agree with me with 24, 39%, but it was quite close between 24, I suppose, 36 also does divide by 4. Oh well. Anyway, not to worry. We haven't done that great. Okay.
Oh no.
So
okay.
question one, what is the typical shape of a large raindrop as they fall? Is it actually a flattened sphere with a dimpled bottom? I feel we should have known that.
I know.
That's a good question now
Okay.
to know. So well done for throwing that one at us, George. The classic book which features the line "It rained and it rained and it rained" was from Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day. Well done, Annie, you got that one right. What is the smallest typical raindrop size before it's classified as drizzle instead of rain? It's 0.5, so...
I was just following you on that one.
Yeah, you shouldn't have followed me.
I shouldn't have.
So I knew it was either 0.1 or 0.5, so I went with the wrong one. We got one right, or I got one right, is susurration, is the poetic term which describes the soft rhythmic sound of gentle rain. So well done if you put A for that one. And
Well, what's the answer for the last
answer
one?
for the last one for the number of do's is 42. So well done, Annie. You said D, and so you
yes.
got that right.
Ah,
So let us know how well you did at home. So the answers were C for question 1, B for question 2, B for question 3, A for question 4, and D for question 5. So lots of people doing quite well. We've got 4 out of 5, all 5 out of 5 for Iron Blob. Some 2s, some 3s, some 4s. I did pretty badly. I got 1. But Annie, well done. You got 3.
3? Oh, fantastic.
So
3 out of 5. I think that's what I got last week. Okay, so we
can-
can't change this right here. I don't have the new numbers. I don't think, anyway. But that'll be...
that will be updated
that'll
in
be
time for next
updated.
week.
Yeah.
So
2
I
plays, 2 wins so far.
Well done.
Winner stays on. Will I be here next week?
Are you here next week?
I think I am due to be, actually.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't originally, but
Oh, of course,
but I am now.
It's Alex's son's nativity show.
Yeah, so
Of course.
I'm...
It's also my son's nativity show next week.
Aw.
So yes, it'll be you and Aidan, I believe.
Yes.
Next week, a rematch.
A rematch,
of last
ooh.
week's. Let's see if Aidan can make up for how the rest of us are doing, which is pretty badly so far in the quizzes.
The Goodison gang, Queen Annie, which they've actually sent that comment twice, so,
so they
very
really
happy to
mean
see
it.
that. Yeah, I'll be keeping my crown until next week.
There's been a comment coming in saying we'll all be volunteering to do extra Weather Studio Live so that we manage to get our scores higher. Because well, I don't know if we'll work it out with the number of... I guess if there's... We have to do some way of...
I guess
averaging,
over
yeah.
the year, maybe we'll do an annual...
an average. Anyway, I'm sure it'll work out. Or
Yeah.
maybe as we get nearer the end of the year, we'll look and see, oh, Annie's done 20 of them and the other Alex has only done 4, so he'll have to step up and then you'll have a break for a while. We have overrun. It's gone 1 o'clock. Did we have anything else that we needed to talk about?
I think we've covered everything, actually.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
you've got a couple of things to check out. Remember, we chatted at the beginning, make sure you check out our broadcast channel on Instagram and send through your photos. We really want to see your photos of the weather over this weekend, not just the weekend, all through next week as well. And we're going to be sharing some of our favourites in next week's Weather Studio Live. We'll also be updating you with the latest on our Christmas snowometer for next week's Weather Studio Live. As we get ever closer to Christmas, we are very much in the Christmas spirit here. But as Alex mentioned earlier, it is going to be quite windy over the next few days, so maybe hold off on your outdoor Christmas decorations and stay tuned to the forecast all through this weekend, as there's potential for some disruptive weather in the early part of next week.
Yeah, that low pressure on Tuesday could be quite a deep one, so definitely one to keep on top of. Obviously, we will be updating the forecast across our social media channels, across YouTube, and so stay on top of those. It's been lovely talking to you this week, and yeah, Annie and Aidan will be back next week.
Yeah, have a brilliant weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.